Hello and greetings to those of you who are joining us tonight. We thank you for being here with us for this installment of our Travel Talk series. If you'd like, please feel free to put your name in the chat and tell us where you're tuning in from. Hi, Nancy. Thank you for joining us from Massachusetts. Happy to see you. Margaret, thanks for tuning in from Ohio. Folks joining us from the Bronx. Oh, welcome, New Mexico. Oh, thank you for joining us from Ontario, Canada. We're glad to have you here. Hi, Mary in BC. Susan in Queens. Amy from Illinois, welcome. And to those of you who are joining us on Facebook, welcome. And if you'd like, please feel free to let us know where you're joining us from in the comment section. Hi, Catherine in Nevada. Again, thank you all for joining us for this installment of our Travel Talk series, Japan, Tea Cultures, and Cherry Blossoms. We're happy to have you. Please feel free to tell us your name and where you're joining us from. Pam, thank you for joining us from North Carolina. Jackie in Canada, welcome. Linda, thank you for joining us from Vermont. Happy to have you. Mary, thank you for joining us. Jan and Mike, good to have you here. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are really glad to have you with us today for our installment of the Travel Talk series, Japan, Tea Culture, and Cherry Blossoms. Now, before we begin, I do want to just touch on some housekeeping items for you. Just as a reminder, if you're joining us from home, on this webinar, we won't be able to see or hear you, but we do want to hear from you. So if you have questions for us, please submit them to the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And if you're joining us on Facebook, please enter your questions in the comment section. I will try to introduce the questions as we go through the session, but we also have a special section reserved for questions and answers at the end of the webinar. Now, today, we are so grateful to have you with us for this installment of our Travel Talk series focusing on Japan. There are so many reasons travelers are interested in visiting. Many will mention the rich cultural and religious history. Others may be interested in visiting Japan because of its position as a world leader in innovation and technology. Others may wish to visit because of the culinary traditions. And of course, for many, they will want to visit because of a combination of all of these. As we begin spring and the cherry trees are blossoming, we thought that now was the perfect time to welcome you to an experience with one of our partners in Japan. In our other travel talks, we have focused on one of our itineraries and walked through it with you step by step. Today will be a little bit different. We plan to slow things down a little bit and visit with one of our suppliers in Tokyo to learn about the Japanese tea ceremony and how to make matcha in your own home, as well as talking about the famous cherry blossoms. Now, our guest has hosted many of our travelers over the years, and we are very pleased that she will be helping us to bring a little bit of Tokyo to your home. Our guest today is named. First, let's talk about our agenda for the day. First, we're going to be talking about the art of the Japanese tea ceremony. Then we will have a live matcha demonstration, learning how to make matcha tea in your own home. Then we'll be discussing cherry blossoms. Last, we'll spend a moment talking about how to experience Japan with EF Go Ahead tours. And then, of course, we'll take your questions. Now, our guest today is Yukiko Fukuomi. She is the owner of Kumon in Tokyo, which is a cultural center that hosts tea ceremonies and also teaches folks how to do other arts like calligraphy, and it's been in operation for 25 years. Yukiko, thank you so much for joining us. And if you could, please say hello to our guests at home.
Hello, everyone. I'm Yukiko Gaumi from Tokyo. It's very nice to meet you. And I've been working with EF Go Tours for several years, and it's my honor to be here today to introduce traditional cultural activity called the tea ceremony. Its time-honored philosophy is still reflected in people's mind and behavior in modern society in Japan. Hope you will enjoy it, and it would be great if you could kindly be more interested in Japan.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for joining us. Now, can you tell us a bit about the Japanese tea ceremony and its place in society today?
Well, the traditional tea ceremony in Japan stays alive in modern society, and it's regarded as one of the most important composite art, which includes calligraphy, flowers, gardening, lacquer art, pottery art, clothing, food, sweets, art, and literature, poetry, and philosophy, and more.
Wonderful. Now, can you tell us a little bit of the history? How does something like drinking tea get turned into a formalized ceremony?
The drinking tea custom was introduced from old China in the 8th century into upper class society in Japan. And they knew already tea is good for health, beauty, anti-aging. So that's why this custom has trickled down from upper class society into older people soon after they started to grow tea plants in local in the 12th century. And it was in the 15th century when the formal and decorative style of the tea ceremony has become established among people in upper class society.
Mm. And so with this becoming something that was, very much for wealthy people, how did the tea ceremony end up influencing artistic culture in Japan?
And so the rich people enjoyed not only drinking tea, but also enjoy collecting beautiful pieces of art, such as tea bowls, tea containers, as symbols of their class, wealth, power. And in the beginning, pieces of art for the tea ceremony were imported from overseas, like from China. And as the tea ceremony became popular as an important social ritual among people in power, the demand of, for pieces of art have increased, which encouraged local artisans to create beautiful, high qualified artwork and led Japanese art culture to its flourishment, I believe. And when you host or attend a tea ceremony, you should know properly how you decorate your room to impress your guests or how you appreciate pieces of art to honor your host.
Wonderful. So I have two questions for you. Now, one of them is, um, if you are a guest at a tea ceremony, how would you go about showing your appreciation and honoring your host?
And at the time, the pieces of art for the tea ceremony was status symbol. So you're supposed to make a perfect compliment on pieces of art, meaning you should know about art. So if you are senior warriors, being strong enough is not enough to be regarded as an important person.
Hmm.
So like knights in Western society, so you should as well be knowledgeable about art.
And you also said it was important for the host to be knowledgeable as well. And so were there experts that people could turn to in order to have good art and make sure that they were doing everything properly?
Yes, so that's why the people who are called team masters have appeared, who have been responsible to the tea ceremony. And their job is to serve their patron, giving advice on art and teach and and also the control its complicated rules. And eventually, they got more independent to seek to evaluate to the value, elevate the value of the tea ceremony by associating it with the spirit of Zen, emphasizing the importance of seeking richness in poverty and find beauty in simplicity, which may lead you a better and peaceful life.
Yukiko, as we were preparing for this, one of the things that I was really struck by was how you talked about how people even today conducting tea ceremonies, it did help them to be more balanced and lead a more peaceful life. I, I would love it if you could tell us about the philosophical principles that underlie the tea ceremony.
Of course, its philosophical principles consist of four pillars: harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility. On the fan, characters on the fan read harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility from the right to the left. And now the tea ceremony is open to people from all walks of life. And mostly they enjoy it as a hobby. And they teach the tea ceremony as a part of education program at school as well.
Hmm.
And you can enjoy it in your own way. Some enjoy artistic aspect and others enjoy its meditating aspect or social aspect. As long as you follow the philosophy, you can enjoy it in your own way. And so the styles and meanings actually continue to change and evolve, responding to demands of the times.
Wonderful. I, as we were talking about it, I was thinking about the meditative aspect. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how that people practice that?
And I believe the goal of practicing the tea ceremony is to focus on yourself, appreciate nothingness in yourself or in your mind, and cultivate your rich senses, foster your imagination skills, which may enrich your daily life. And that is what we need so more in this hustle and bustle of everyday life.
Yeah, I could certainly use more moments where there's nothing going on in my mind. um, well, when someone is conducting a tea ceremony or hosting a tea ceremony, can you tell us how long would that typically last?
So it depends, and the shortest version will last just 15 minutes, and the longest version will last 4 hours.
Mm.
It includes meal and drink sake, sometimes a lot, and it depends.
Sure, sure.
And they always share the same philosophy. It's very
Hmm.
important.
Well, thank you so much for that. Now, for those of you who are at home, I want to tell you what we're going to be doing over the next few minutes. So, what we're going to do is we're going to try our best to bring a little bit of Tokyo to you and to help you feel transported to Tokyo. And Yukiko and I are going to try and guide you through that. But first, Yukiko, uh, uh, if we could be welcomed into your garden. Let's transport ourselves to your garden in Tokyo.
Of course, please welcome. And this is a picture of stone basin in my small garden. And let's pretend that you're washing your hands and mouth using water from the basin, which is what you're going to do before attending the tea ceremony to purify your mind. And they say every step of the tea ceremony reflects its philosophy. And now, would you please close your eyes for a while and imagine you are here in my place in Tokyo, even though you're watching this program from the comfort of your home. Your rich imagination is key to enjoyment of your life. And now, would you please open your eyes? Now you're here in my room in Tokyo. The room looks simple, not over decorated. And less is more. It even doesn't have any great view of outside to avoid distractions, to stay focused on yourself. Simple settings leave you the space, and you're going to contemplate the space and feel it in your own way. That's how you'll enjoy being in the moment. in peace.
This room is beautiful, but you're right. It's very simple, and it leaves a lot for you to fill with your own imagination. Now, there is one thing that I noticed and I want to ask you about in this room, and that's the area to the right-hand side with the scroll and the flowers. Can you tell us about that part of the room, and also can you tell us what the scroll says?
Of course. And this is a focal point of the room called tokonoma, which normally holds calligraphy and flowers in seasons. And an essential aspect of hanging scroll calligraphy is that they are intended to be hung not permanently, but should be selected carefully according to the seasons or the theme of the tea ceremony. It could convey a message from host to guest as well. And today's hanging scroll reads Ichigo Ichi E, one lifetime, one encounter. This is another important message or important concept for the tea ceremony, which I would like to share with you. Every encounter is special, unique, never repeat. Cherish every encounter, every moment is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Oh, I love that philosophy. It really it strikes home, the idea that each individual meeting is special and a once in a lifetime opportunity. Um, so I have one other question about the flowers, which is if what kind of flowers might you use to decorate that space?
So in the seasons, the camellia flower is very popular, and especially a small one. Sometimes it's just a bud. And as I mentioned before, less is more. And the flower is just a lead, so to give to lead you imaginary scenery in your mind. You
Mm,
can use your rich imagination to so find beautiful scenery in nature, flowers blooming, and it's a symbol, just a symbol.
beautiful. I love that. Um, So now, for those of you at home, we are going to actually watch a part of the tea ceremony. Of course, we don't have time to enjoy one together, and as you know, they can take quite a while depending. But what we're going to do is we're going to watch the tea master preparing part of the tea ceremony. And what I want to do is I will allow for some moments of silence so that we can observe and feel that peace. Occasionally, I will ask a question of Yukiko. But as we begin the video, the first thing that you're going to see is the tea master using a cloth to wipe some of the implements or to purify them, going back to that principle of purity. So that's what we're going to be seeing first. And periodically through this video, I will chime in and ask Yukiko some questions, but you will also hear some moments of silence. All right, let's begin. Yukiko, can I ask, with the hot water in the bowl, is he warming the bowl? Is he purifying the whisk? Can you tell us what we're seeing here?
The both, and while cleaning the whisk, is warming the bowl as well.
Ah, so
And
it's both.
every detail has meaning and looks very beautiful.
Yukiko, can you explain the significance of the two different types of cloth? Is one that's purple and one that's white?
And the white one is made of linen and it's used to absorb water to wipe the bowl. And other one is purple one is made of silk and perfect material to purify beautiful pieces of art, not so giving a damage on it.
Thank you. Yukiko, can you tell us what kind of tea this is?
So always matcha powder green tea with no other option.
Yukiko, I have to tell you, I feel more peaceful just having watched it, and I'm not even there. Um, I do have a few questions, one of which is mine and one which came in during the course of the tea ceremony. Now, the first one is at the end, the tea master rotated the bowl. Is there a significance to that movement?
Yes, so as I mentioned before, the tea bowl is one of the important pieces of art, and so as a status symbol. And while you're treating the bowl, you should always treat with respect. And when you're making tea, you're going to face the most beautiful side of the bowl. And when the tea is prepared, you're going to turn it and place it in the correct position.
Wonderful. So I also have a question that came in from one of our guests. This question is from Mari. And the question is, during the tea ceremony, are guests required to sit on their knees the entire time in the way that the tea master was sitting?
Actually, the guest can sit in any way that you feel comfortable. So it's my opinion.
Hmm.
And but sometimes so you're supposed to sit straight. It's actually really hard even for local and some local carry a small stool to
Hmm.
place it and sit on the small stool. And also there are modern table style settings are invented. It's getting be popular because we are
Ah.
now enjoying modernized, westernized lifestyle. Eating at a table and sleeping on the bed is changing, but this concept remains unchanged.
Sure, sure. So if someone was visiting, it wouldn't necessarily be the case that they would have to stay on their knees throughout the ceremony.
Exactly. And but the
Right.
host should keep the perfect posture. It's very practical posture to behave yourself properly. So that's
Mm.
why the tea master should be trained very well.
Ah, I see. I have one more question about the tea ceremony before we move on to the next section. And this question is, does the tea ceremony change from region to region in Japan?
No. So actually there are different schools, but not so regional difference. And so they all come from the same root, but so there are many different schools, and so they would like to control rules. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why there are many different rules. Like when you're turning the ball, you're going to turn it twice this way, or other school says turn that way. But because so the same, the reason is the same, like to show the respect or
Right.
something.
So depending on where the tea master was trained, the
Exactly.
experience might be different.
Exactly, exactly.
All right.
And this
Wonderful.
concept is always the same
Mm.
philosophy. So they share all the same philosophy.
The same pillars. Beautiful. Well, now what I would love to do is I understand that you have a demonstration to show us about making matcha in your own home. So it's less
Yes,
formal, but it's still something that you can do in your own home to, and you can still bring the same philosophy to it.
exactly. And you do not need to prepare whole setting for the tea ceremony. So all you have to prepare is tea bowl, matcha, and you see the matcha inside,
Mm.
very fresh green tea powder and tea whisk made of bamboo instead of metal whisk. So I recommend that you use whisk bamboo made of bamboo because it won't give a damage on the precious table.
Oh,
And the
yes, less
tea
likely to
scoop as
damage.
well made of bamboo, but of course a metal spoon would work as well. And so I would like to still give you a tip for making good, not lumpy tea. So
Hmm.
you're going to use strainer before placing powder into the bowl. So because it's fine powder, but it could be stuck very easily. And if you place the powder into the bowl through strainer, and you're going to have smooth tea.
Mm. So you've
And
already strained yours.
yes, yes. And I placed the powder in the container in the mountain shape. So creating nature even in the small thing and
It is
appreciate it.
it is such a beautiful color.
Yes, the fresh powder has fresh green, beautiful color, and you're supposed to consume before color change. And it's very fine powder. It's easily oxidized. And so the of course you need hot water as well. It's hot water, not boiling water, but boiled water. And now let's start making tea. So first thing you're going to do is to check the bowl and so decide which is the most beautiful side, and always the beautiful side faces you while you're making. And this is the beautiful side, and the beautiful side is facing you. And sit straight and straighten your back, please. And pour some water, hot water into the bowl to warm the bowl, and put the whisk into the bowl and rinse it as well as check it. And as well, so it means so you're going to soften the bamboo material.
Mm.
So if the bamboo is dry, it's easily broken. So soften the material while you're rinsing and cleaning the whisk. It's very practical. And hold the bowl and swirl it to warm the bowl. You do not need to be in a hurry.
Mm. Like you said, focus on one thing at a time.
Exactly. And discard the water. And you're going to wet the bowl thoroughly. So that our water doesn't remain in the bowl. And the powder is very fine, so it's easily stuck if
Ah.
the water remains in the water. And now the powder comes. I scoop powder, carefully scoop it so that I do not collapse the shape of the mountain. Just changing the landscape.
Yes.
So every step, one at a time. And pour hot water. The ratio of powder and water is like that: 2 gram powder and 80 cc hot water would be standard ratio and can be adjusted according to the preference. You can
Mm.
enjoy much more dense tea or light tea, but it's your preference. It's up to your preference. And then move it back and forth very quick.
And I notice you're moving it back and forth instead of going in a circle. Is that just
To form it. And it's because the bowl is circle, and if you
mhm.
make us if you move it like circle, form doesn't come out. So move it back and forth, straight lines,
Great.
and the form appears. Perfect form appears, which makes the taste milder, texture creamy.
Mm.
And at the end, make a circle, and the whisk will end up in the center, and pull it out slowly. And now the tea is prepared. And so when you're serving tea, so you're going to rotate the bowl so that the pretty side faces your guest and place it. And today's tea bowl is the cherry blossom mochi. You can
Of course.
say it. And so maybe I can show you how you drink tea. So sometimes you can make tea to yourself.
Hmm.
And so when the tea is prepared, you're going to hold it with both hands and slightly raise it up to show your appreciation to nature. The tea is a gift from nature. And now the pretty side faces you, and you're going to rotate the bowl so that you can avoid sipping from pretty side of the bowl.
Mm.
And while you're drinking tea, you do not talk and focus on tasting comprehensive flavor of matcha tea. And you can take your time, but you do not take too much time because the powder doesn't dissolve in the water. It will be settled down very soon.
So if you wait too long, it settles.
And it was very precious, expensive. In olden days, it's still precious tea. So you do not leave anything in the bowl. It's how we show your respect to nature, I believe. So that's why you can slurp it up. And with your last sip, you can even make an elegant slurping sound like, can you hear that?
Yes.
And doesn't
Uh,
need to
the the
be
elegant
noisy one,
slurping sound.
very elegant slurping sound. Then use your fingers to wipe the pot a little touch and clean up your fingers with a paper. maybe, and then rotate the bowl again, and so that you can appreciate the bowl from various angles. And so it's hard to see. I'm sorry, it's hard to see. It's too bright,
Mm,
and it has pretty cherry blossom motif on it.
beautiful. And
Okay.
speaking of the cherry blossoms, I understand that we have, or you have a suite of sorts that you are going to show
Yes,
us.
yes, and actually, traditional Japanese sweets, um, essential, crucial element in the tea ceremony as well,
Okay.
and so the it really enhances a matcha flavor, and it's crafted to reflect the season or the theme of the tea ceremony, and it pleases not only your palate but also your eyes. And
Ah, yes.
today, I would like to introduce to you the traditional Japanese sweet called Sakura Mochi.
So,
And
Sakura Mochi.
yes, yes. So I would like you to learn a Japanese word today. Sakura, meaning cherry
Sakura.
blossoms. Yes, cherry blossoms, cherry trees, cherry tree leaves. And mochi means dumpling. So sakura mochi means rice cake dumpling. So with
Mm,
cherry tree leaves or cherry tree blossoms, whatever. And this is traditional sweets. And this is pickled salted cherry tree leaf.
wow, that's the leaf of the cherry tree.
Yes, yes,
Wow.
which you are supposed to eat. And so it's the inside is the red beans paste. Can you see it?
Oh, I
And
can
it's
see it.
the pink colored rice crepe and wrapped with cherry tree leaf. So it has a unique taste because of its leaf. And so combination of salty pickled taste and a sweetness of red beans so much so perfectly. And I highly recommend that you should try one if you come to Japan during cherry blossom season because it's very popular seasonal sweet and you can easily find it everywhere like in supermarkets, in convenience stores, and it is an acquired taste actually. You
Hmm.
may not like it at first, but you're going to like it. And I myself cannot resist buying one when I find it in the traditional sweet shop.
Of course. I mean, especially when it's a sign of spring, right? Because
Yes,
yeah, that's something that you can find in the springtime.
yes, yes.
Now, are there other products that people might find in Japan that are made out of cherry blossoms or taste like
Yes,
cherry blossoms?
yes. And so I like to introduce another traditional sakura drink. It's sakura hot drink, actually.
Mm,
And so can you see? This is the cherry blossoms. It's
wow.
salted pickled cherry blossom. So
Oh,
of course it's
so they're preserved,
pickled
they're
as well.
pickled. Yeah.
Yes, preserved. And I'm going to make sakura hot drink now, and which can be served at happy events or other so celebrating event gatherings like engagement party or so the waiting room for siblings at the wedding ceremony or something like that because it regarded as auspicious
Mm.
and it's sometimes too salty so you can so actually put in the water to remove excess salt before using it
Oh, okay.
and then place it in a cup and pour hot water Can you see the petals
Oh, yes.
unfurl and float?
It looks like it's blooming.
Yes, so it's represent beginning as well, and so that's why it's regarded very auspicious tree.
Ah, that's beautiful. I can see why people would use that for a ceremony or for an occasion that's meant to be a happy one. That is
Yes,
gorgeous.
and the
Now,
cherry
oh, go on.
blossoms, people cherry blossoms can be found so all year round in the special shop, specializing for making cookies, dessert, or the high-end grocery stores as well. And please check it out. So when you come to Japan, it will be a very good souvenir from Japan as well.
Yes, that's good to know that people, no matter what time they travel to Japan, would be able to buy some Sakura products. Um, Now, are there other kinds of businesses or stores that sell Sakura flavored things?
Of course. So other than Sakura Mochi or Sakura hot drink, Sakura you, so there are some very so famous Sakura inspired drink or foods. So coming from a very so big major company corporate,
Right.
like for example, the it's pickled the cherry blossom on top. So Sakura chiffon cake from Starbucks.
Of
And
course.
the powdered green tea leaves are mixed in the dough. And so people so would love to find something Sakura flavored when spring season or cherry blossom season arrive and keep posting photos
Yes.
SNS. And you can see now the cherry blossom season is around the corner and it's
It,
fun.
yeah, that and then there are other, I imagine there's other companies that are doing the same thing as Starbucks and
Yes,
having
yes. And
Sakura
like
flavored everything.
Sakura Kit Kat and Sakura donuts, Sakura ice cream. And it's fun. It will be fun to browse around in the supermarket or grocery stores to find something with Sakura and Sakura inspired foods and drinks. It's fun.
Oh, that's lovely. It kind of reminds me here in the States when autumn comes around, everything becomes pumpkin flavored, but this is prettier, I think, than pumpkins. But let's transition and let's actually talk a bit more about cherry blossoms and cherry blossom season. I mean, everyone around the world knows about Japanese cherry blossoms, and I would love it if you could tell me a bit about what does the season of spring mean for Japanese people, and why is it so important?
Yes. So for everyone from all around the world, spring means beginning. And especially in Japan, the new school terms starts in April. And government fiscal year as well as major corporate fiscal years start in April. So meaning it's a fresh start. And some people take up new positions at work or transfer to other divisions in April, as well as graduation and entrance to new school. And they all take picture under the cherry blossoms to memorize at the moment. And
So
so
yes.
it's so there are many hellos, goodbyes in this season. It's very special for
Ah,
Japanese.
I that is lovely. I can imagine taking those photos underneath those trees and having them for years to come. So it's a season of beginnings and endings. Um,
Exactly.
Now, I understand that you took a video in your garden of your cherry tree. And what I would love is if we could just watch that and just listen to it, and then talk a little bit more about cherry blossoms and cherry blossom season. Uh, I want to visit your garden. It just seems so lovely. I didn't want that to end.
Thank
Oh,
you.
oh wow. So during the when we were talking about the tea ceremony, we talked about the philosophy behind the tea ceremony. Do cherry blossoms have a metaphorical meaning or a symbolic meaning to Japanese people?
Yes, so they say people in Japan have perceived the cherry blossoms to be a metaphor for the fleeting nature of life for over 1,000 years. They bloom and fall all too quickly. And you will find beauty not only in blooming flowers, but also the way their petals flutter to the ground. And the cherry blossom is regarded as an iconic flower of Japan because its ephemeral beauty matches Japanese aesthetic sensibility. And the most popular kind of cherry blossoms called someyoshi no bloom only for a short period of time and their petals start dropping as soon as they've opened. And the Someyoshi no cherry trees are cultivated only by grafting, not grown from seeds. So all of them are linked to a single tree, meaning you can it can be called clones. So that's why
Mm.
they all burst into bloom and scatter at all one time. And so if they grow in the same climate. So that's why
Ah.
people can't help talking. So when would be about the cherry blossom, when would be the best timing for Hanami cherry blossoms viewing, even the news broadcast cherry blossoms front, so to say.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, you mentioned a word, hanami, which can you tell us about what that word means and what a Japanese person's understanding of hanami would be?
Of course, and Hana means flowers or blossoms. And in this context, it means cherry blossoms. As I mentioned before, the cherry blossom is an iconic flower of Japan. Sometimes it's just you just say flower. Hana, it means sakura, cherry blossoms. And hana means flowers viewing. Mi means viewing. So hana mi means cherry blossom viewing.
Mm.
And so it's actually must to do in spring season for all Japanese. And so actually the cities, countries are covered with cherry blossoms. And so for a short period of time, and you can spot your favorite cherry blossom viewing place in your neighborhood. Of course, sometimes you can go the famous cherry blossom viewing place
Hmm.
to for as well. And people would gather and drink and so eat and sing karaoke and
Oh,
like
karaoke.
that. Yes, but this year we are not allowed to sing
Right.
karaoke or drink or eat, but just walk around under the cherry trees in full bloom, so your mind. So
Oh,
and
it looks like so much fun though to gather with friends and either to picnic as these people are or even just stroll through a place that has these beautiful flowers blooming.
yes, so can't miss it. So it's must to do or local here.
Now, I want to return to your garden because we have a picture of you with the setup that you have for your own hanami in the garden, and I think that your setup looks like what I would like to go to. It looks very elegant.
Yes, under the cherry tree, I set up the modern but authentic table style tea ceremony setting. And the tea master is making tea to serve the tea to my guest. So it's
Uh,
elegant version of cherry blossom viewing, I
and
believe.
so when you were talking about how, now sometimes tea masters will do tea ceremonies at a table setting. This is an example of that.
Yes, yes, and it's getting be popular. It's casual, but sometimes it can be used as at a formal tea ceremony.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Well, it
very
makes sense
common.
for this setting, outdoors, and it looks very beautiful. And I also want to show a picture that you sent us of this is a lovely box that has cherry blossom decorations on it. Can you tell us about these pieces that we have displayed on the screen?
Yes, this is a triple stacked lacquer box with cherry blossom motifs, and I would pack seasonal dishes in the box to go on a picnic or hanami, cherry blossom viewing. And silver ones, sake drinking set, traditional
Ah,
sake drinking set. And so it's an elegant version of drinking sake as well. Of course, you can just grab the bottle of wine or a cup of beer, so a can of beer as well.
but if you have such beautiful beautiful silver pieces, of course, why wouldn't you want to use them for a time
Oh
like the
yes,
springtime?
it's just for the spring season, so I do not use it in winter nor summer.
Mm,
And so loves the seasonal so atmosphere or sense.
wonderful. So one other thing that you mentioned to me was that in some places, in order to make it so that folks can view the cherry blossoms all at all hours, they illuminate the cherry blossom trees at night.
Yes, and so major cherry blossom viewing spots are usually lit up at night, and it is highly recommended that you walk around under the cherry illuminated cherry trees at night. And so it's also must be very fantastic. So if the it's the night when the moon is out, it's
Oh.
romantic.
Oh, that does sound romantic. And speaking of romantic, we have another picture that is from
Yes.
nearby your house, and it's a very famous spot that's over a river. Can you tell us about this picture?
Yes, this is come from Meguro River. And along the river, alongside of the rivers, the cherry trees are growing, and so make like an arch. So and
Mm.
so it's so beautiful, and also when they start the petals start dropping, it makes very fantastic scenery. So like it looks like so the blizzard, snow
Oh,
blizzard.
oh, that
So
sounds
that's
beautiful.
beautiful. And the
Now,
petals are floating on the river as well.
oh,
And the river
yes.
covered with the pink petals.
Oh, I bet that would be make for some incredible photography if you're someone that takes pictures.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so one question I wanted to ask is, how, it's hard to tell when they're going to blossom, right? It sort of
Mm,
changes from one year to another, or what is? Can you tell us
yes.
about that?
It's hard to tell. So you cannot so forecast when to bloom. This year, so they come 2 weeks earlier than usual. Sometimes they come in April. So no one can forecast. So, but so don't worry. So there are different types, variety of cherry trees. So some come early in so early March, and they come later after the popular ones gone.
Mm.
And also, you have always you'll have always Sakura Mochi.
Of course, you always have the Sakura Mochi. Wonderful. Well, Yukiko, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to ask you to join me again in just a few minutes for to answer some questions. But first, I'm going to talk very briefly about how to visit Japan with EF Go Ahead. So, with visiting Japan with EF Go Ahead, we have a number of different options for you. Of course, we do have one tour that takes place in March and April, which is called Cherry Blossoms in Japan, and it begins in Tokyo and ends in Kyoto. So that is one option that we have available for you. So if you're interested in traveling to Japan during the spring season, this is the one that you would want to choose. We also have 3 other itineraries that you can choose from. We have a 10-day tour, which is the highlights of Japan, Tokyo to Kyoto. We have the Grand Tour of Japan, which is a 14-day tour and can be extended to 18 days. And we have a new tour called Japan Adventure, Kyoto, the Japanese Alps, and Tokyo. Now, this one is new. It's designed for smaller groups and is a little bit more active. When you're looking at this online, pay attention to that section in the Japanese Alps. It looks like it will be a lot of fun. Um, so at this point, I am going to bring Yukiko back and ask a few questions that we've received over the course of the webinar. So one of the questions was about the Sakura hot drink. So when you pour the hot water over the flower. Now, when you drink that, do you leave the flower in the cup or do you take the flower out?
You eat it.
Oh, you eat the flower.
Yes. And so traditional Japanese manner, so you do not leave nothing. It's very important. If you cannot eat it, you just pick up and pack it in your handkerchief and put it in your
Ah,
sleeve and
well, I mean
take it
that
with you.
it makes sense that though that it's with the way they've preserved it and everything that you everything would be edible. Oh, I had no idea. That's
Yes, yes.
well, thank you for that question. I really appreciate that one. That one was from Elaine. Um, I have another question. This one's from Liz. And can you tell us how or why did cherry blossoms become a national symbol of Japan?
So over 1,000 years, it has been an iconic flower of Japan. Before that, plum blossom is the popular flower, which can be so featured in music or the poetry, because of influenced by the influence from China.
Hmm.
But so as I mentioned before, its character, ephemeral beauty, matches Japanese aesthetic sensibility. So over 1,000 years ago, so they more and more adopted the cherry blossoms as an iconic flower of Japan and more make poetry so about cherry blossoms than plum blossom. So it's very unique to Japan. To Japan.
Wonderful. So this is another question about cherry blossoms, and I know you mentioned that there are different varieties, but um, so is there a difference between the pink uh, cherry blossoms and the white cherry blossoms? Are they a different
Yes,
kind of tree?
yes, different kind of tree species, and the most popular one is more pale, so pale pink, like a white, like the
Mm.
one in my garden, and the pink one is a different species. And so there are some green one, cherry
Oh,
blossoms,
wow.
green look colored cherry blossoms as well. And so they say over 1,000 variety or something like that. So,
Oh,
and I love walking around in my neighborhood to find signs of changing seasons, and I enjoyed finding new species of cherry trees. Now, it's the most popular one is a white one, pale pink
ah,
white one.
beautiful. Um, do you have a favorite memory associated with cherry blossoms or
Yes, and so I actually, I as mentioned before, the school life, the cherry blossoms bring me back to my school life. And so when I walk the street, go to the school, I always so running after the petals of cherry blossoms and so falling down on the ground. And so to celebrate the kids for new departure, so the cherry trees are often planted in school ground. And
Oh.
so that's my memory.
Oh, that's beautiful. I can just picture you running after those cherry blossoms. What a beautiful memory, remembering school days. Oh.
Yes.
Well, Yukiko, thank you so much. We don't have time for any more questions. I do want to share with those of you viewing at home the upcoming travel talks that we will be hosting soon. Next Tuesday, April 6th, we'll be hosting a webinar about Italy, food and wine tours. You don't want to miss that one. On Earth Day, April 20th, we're going to be doing a destination spotlight on Costa Rica. On Tuesday, April 27th, we will be visited by an Egyptologist to talk about ancient Egypt. And then on May 11th, we will be talking Scotland, castles, whiskey, and traditions. We thank you again for joining us. And if you have more questions for us, please give us a call or visit us on our website, goaheadtours.com. And Yukiko, I want to thank you one more time. Thank you so much for joining us and welcoming us to Tokyo. It has been an absolute pleasure.
It's my pleasure, and hope you can visit us in very near future and visit my place for the tea ceremony in person.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you, Yukiko, and thank you to all of our guests. We hope that you have a lovely evening, and for Yukiko, I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Sayonara.